Today, I want to say welcome to Markus and Tas. Thank you so much for coming on the channel. Say hi, guys.
Hi. Thanks for having us.
Hi,
Such an
welcome.
honor.
So this is a segment that I am calling Sketch Talk, and I just thought it would be a fun opportunity to have people on that are in the iOS music space, either creators or developers, and just kind of talk about what we do, get to know each other, and kind of help each other build each other up. So I'm really excited to have Markus and Tas on today. They are the creators of Octachron, which is a really cool now 16-track drum sequencer for iOS that really fun to use. And I just want to start by giving you guys a chance to introduce yourselves. So if you could just say who you are, what your role is in building Octachron, and a little bit about your own background in music, just a brief synopsis.
You start, Markus.
Yeah, maybe I can start. First of all, I want to say thank you for inviting us. I think it's very nice format you're having here, and very nice to talk about this. I'm Markus. I'm iOS developer by trade. So basically, iOS development is my day job, but I've started making music on my PC back in the days in Reason. So I'm doing that for a long time already. And eventually I started also making music on my iPad, inspired by a friend who, like in the really early days when Sunriser and Thor were like the hot shit. And I've started basically making music with GarageBand, and then Orm came, and I was interested in like also making my own stuff, because back then everything was super limited, and this is basically, I wanted to do more that it was possible, and basically this is how I started getting into this stuff.
Very cool. And I remember Sunriser. I think that was one of the first synths I bought too. Really cool one. And just what is your role with Octachron?
My role is basically, like we could call it founder maybe, and main programmer, and Tas and me are working together on it now, and basically I'm doing all the coding, and maybe Tas, you can also introduce yourself now and tell what I'm not doing.
Yes. So thanks for me having us. So nice. It's a really cool format. I like the other interview you did a lot, and I think it's a cool thing which people like us should do more often. I think, because the community thing is so great about this mobile music production thing. I think, And yes, I'm Tas. I'm a UX UI designer for websites and apps, and also front-end developer for websites. And my musical background is more on the band side, actually, and I like to sing, write songs with piano or guitar, and also drumming. No virtuoso stuff, but I can do in a band. And but I always like to especially listen to electronic music as well. And we were just friends, Markus and me, before we started working together on Octachron. And he showed it to me, and actually it was for me, it was quite a new thing to have like this serious music developing tools on mobile devices as well. But I was interested at once, and because I liked a lot this flexibility of the software you have. But it's more intuitive and more fun to do it with touch gestures than with a mouse on a PC, huh? And on the go as well. But also at home, it's more fun, and then it's more closer to hardware from the handling. but with the flexibility of software. And
Yeah.
and some things are especially especially I think which convinced me was the like the modulation part. We have
Mhm.
an Octachron, you can draw lines so easily from a like a curve you want to do with an effect or something, and you can do it with a mouse as well. But yeah, it's so much more fun with the finger. Yeah? And
Yeah.
then I thought, okay, this could really be something. Yes.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. I mean, there's the endless debate of like hardware versus software,
Yeah.
but I think one of the things I like about the iPad as well is that I feel like you get the best of both worlds. You get that, like you said, the flexibility of software, but you still get that like physical kind of tactile experience that I think is a lot of like the magic of
Yeah.
hardware. Like playing a synth, there's just something about like turning that knob and hearing
Absolutely.
the filter respond. It's just not the same if you're moving a mouse on a screen.
Yeah. 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 No, that's the thing. Yeah.
And I
And
think
then
also the aerospace is much more experimental. There's people like coming up with new concepts that haven't been thought on the Mac or PC, and neither on hardware. And I think things like,
Yeah.
for example, the sampler app, which is also a really early one, just like crazy new. Just super inviting.
Yeah, it seems like a fun platform for developers to try out ideas, just because there's not as much of the established, this is how the plugin market is, as say as it is on desktop.
absolutely. Absolutely. Yes.
So
And
I
yeah.
guess talking more about kind of the music background, thinking about what are some like instruments, pieces of gear that maybe you've really liked? Say like favorite synths, or it doesn't have to be a synthesizer. But then also, how does that experience, of using the instrument kind of inform, how you approach designing an app, for example? So favorite synths, and then what about that do you kind of try to translate into the app world?
Yeah. For me, many things. I mean, I started out, my first instrument that I played was piano. Stopped
Mm-hmm.
doing that, started playing drums, also played drums in a municipal orchestra in my hometown. So I always was into drums, and the physical drums, playing physical drums is not something that you can do when you're living as a student in a city, because it's expensive. You need a drum kit, you need the space. And
Yeah.
never had that. So I started like naturally doing with the stuff that I had at home, my computer, and that was something that continued with the iPad. And I think one of my early favorites back in the days was elastic drums.
Yeah.
I Which was very inspiring for me, because I mean, you have a drum synthesizer. It doesn't have like the classical sounds, but you can like go really out and go crazy with it. That is
Mm-hmm.
something, by the way, I like a lot about Blitzbox. Sounds really nice.
Okay. Thank you.
It,
Yeah.
Absolutely.
and like this is something that I really enjoyed. It inspired me a lot, but I felt like it had some shortcomings. I wanted to have more modulation opportunities, like also
Mhm.
inspired from the Electron sequencers back in the days, like the Octachron and stuff, which like where you can set properties for your voice and every trigger. And
Mhm.
basically I wanted to build that myself, and started out writing numerical drums, which was
Okay.
basically a sequencer and a drum synthesizer, basically like a whole drum computer. Basically, um,
Mhm.
I wanted to have built something similar to elastic drums, and
Okay.
I actually got really far. I had the app more or less ready until I realized, like, okay, like, but building a sequencer is really hard. Building like synthesizer voices for drum computers really hard. And at some point, I wasn't like I didn't feel like comfortable releasing something like this. It didn't sound like I wanted to sound it like. I would have had to spend much more time into it to make it satisfying for myself. And also, yeah. So I eventually said like, okay, yeah, I'm investing a lot of time into it. And I want to release it. I want to have something out because, yeah, I thought it was a nice experiment to bring out the net. And I decided to basically just really like cut it in half and only release one part of it. And the part that worked quite well was the sequencer, the drum sequencer. And this is basically how I started with Octachron. Yeah, I didn't start from scratch, but like cut something in half.
Yeah, that is one of the nice things about software is that you work on something, and even if it doesn't end up becoming a product, you can still roll that existing code into a new product, take the best parts of it.
Yeah, definitely.
Tas, how about you?
I hope that was.
Yes.
How does your kind of musical experience with different instruments kind of inform your approach to designing for, say, Octachron?
Yes, yes. Well, actually, with the band stuff, the connection is not so big. I would say, but yeah, as I said before, I just like this having this thing on a tablet with the possibilities, and then I just approached like the normal stuff like Royce Maker, or how is it pronounced? Well, and drum computer and koala sampler and now your Blickbox, which I like very much, and both from the sounds and from the design, very clean, nice design, I think, and it's a lot of fun. Yes, and what I don't have one myself, but I actually like a lot the idea to connect it to hardware drum synths or computers as well, especially to the vintage ones, just to an 808 or a 909, stuff like that. And that's why we now put mapping presets for that as well in our last update. Because I really like to see other people using that. I like this mixture, to have this rough analog sound and maybe some little mistakes, and just the imagination of an analog machine doing something is just something still different for me. Even if sometimes you can't differ it from the sound, but just the imagination. And I think the idea is very nice to be able to control like an 808. Just in very different manners, and like you couldn't control it before, and especially with the randomizer and mutation and stuff like that. I'm really looking forward to see people do crazy stuff with that.
I'm always excited to see people using iPad apps with hardware.
Yeah.
Just because, I think they just go so well together, especially when you get the MIDI. You could just, because there's so many kind of interesting and fun different ways of approaching things on iOS, and then merging that with the hardware, I think, is a really cool pairing. Why don't we jump into this update, this latest big update you guys did? One of the big features you added was 16 tracks, which is really cool. It makes it perfect for using with Blipbox. I know there's a lot of iOS synths now that have, I think, the FAC.
This was the main reason, actually.
Yeah, there's a lot of
not only, but it's cool.
So, I mean, what were you hoping, that people kind of get out of this update? And what are you most excited about this update?
Yes. Yes. Well, at first it started as an 8-track sequencer,
Mhm.
as you know, and was where the name comes from, of course. And because Markus, and then I also thought, yes, well, most drums you can do with 8 tracks, and it's so nice to have it in this compact format, and not having to scroll and still have big buttons to tap on. And
Mhm.
we were a lot about um, uh, about how stable it works and feels,
Mhm.
and yes, and that's why we you can add, of course, something, Markus, if you have something. Um, yes, that's why we did it with his 8 tracks, in the first place. But people started. We are quite active on social media, as you might know, and we got a lot of feedback. How it would be so nice to have an up to 16
Mhm.
track version, because we just have a lot of drums and like Bitbox as well,
Mhm.
um, with 16 tracks. And so we thought about it. Okay, yes, and then one of the main things was, okay, but how can we still keep it so stable feeling? Yeah,
Yeah.
and this was a big topic, because yeah, and so we had several solutions for that. So one is, um, you can now hide the modulation bar. Then
Mhm.
you can nearly show 16 tracks without scrolling on a normal sized iPad, and still in a nice size for tapping. But
Mhm.
even if it gets a bit too small, we added this compact mode. So if you're okay with that, but you just
Mhm.
don't want to scroll, you can use this compact mode, which is on by default. And um, and then and and and, and then we had the opportunity to hide tracks as well. So if you have um, we have mappings for a lot of drum computers, as you know, and
Mhm.
if you want to use these mapping presets, but still uh, don't want to use all 16 tracks, maybe you want to use 12 or something, and these are not the last 4 tracks that you don't want to use, but they are in between, like there's a conga in between or something. um, yeah, you can hide them, and so I think we did quite a good mixture of flexibility, and it's still pretty stable
Oh
feeling
yeah, I
also.
agree. It really, yeah, it seems to be a really nice transition from the 8 to the 16. And getting something like that right, I know, is hard because yeah, the one of the challenges we know about AUV3 too is that the window could be any size or any aspect
Absolutely.
ratio. And so coming up with a design that works, and I feel like I still have not figured that one out. Just like making things look good at all aspect ratios. That's something I know that FA FAC his apps really good in that regard, and Octachron is as well. So I the work comes across that you guys put in the thought. You know, it really the very smooth transition from 8 to 16.
uh, that's nice to hear. Yeah, we're still
Thank
open
you.
for feedback, and yes,
But I,
suggestions to optimize, of course. But yeah, but people appreciate it, actually. Yeah, and it took a little longer than we wanted. We only do it in our free time. Yeah, so we both have full-time other jobs, and yeah,
I
but
know, yeah. Whenever you change, you know that like a fundamental assumption of the code base, for example, going from 8 to 16, it can be a lot of work involved in that. Are you
but
going to
yes,
definitely,
rename
yes.
it?
but
We're going to rename the
Mhm.
app Desacron.
This was also a topic on social media, actually. Yeah, but no, we think the name's still nice. Yeah,
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 Octachron is definitely better to say.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
and I know there's another feature that you guys mentioned. You wanted to talk a little bit about the smart randomizer, and I was just playing around with that last night. That's pretty cool. I mean, I don't think that's part of the update, but it's a really cool feature. How did that come together?
No, yeah, this was the last big update. Actually, of course, we have had some small ones in between as well. This was like last late autumn, winter, just a few weeks before Christmas. We released this smart randomizer, and yes, and this was also the first big feature which we both were working on together. First thing were just like a little stuff like optimizing the song mode a little, and the preset saving and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, and we also got feedback from social media, and we also did a little survey. Yeah, you
Oh yeah.
say, yeah. Yeah, and it was in the app actually. I mean, it was then on the website, but there was like a hint. Would you like to take the survey? And really, a lot of users participated on that. This was really nice, and yes, and one of the main things were that they wanted to have something randomizedly featured,
Mm-hmm.
and we also like the idea anyway, and so we went on this, and we call it smart randomizer because it's not totally random.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's based on a standard house groove, like with a four to the floor bass drum, and a snare on the two and the four, and
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and then we go random from there.
Okay,
And
okay.
yes, and this was a big challenge, also conceptual wise, to make the right mixture, and we chose to go maybe a little. So if you use it now, you don't really think at first of a four to the floor rhythm,
Yeah,
um, because we went quite random there
yeah.
actually. But you can take that back, and we also asked people, and they said,
Mhm.
oh, better go more random by default, and you
Yeah,
can be straight always if you want. So yeah, so
yeah.
that's the approach. Yeah, that's the
Okay, yeah.
approach.
No, that it's something I've thought about too, because I also get that feedback. People like being able to say randomize synth presets, and I like the idea of doing something random, but if it's just totally random, then
It's
you're
too
not
random.
most likely not going to get a good sound. So you have to have
No.
something that you kind of work off of, which I think is a smart way to go, especially for drum patterns.
Yes, yes, yes. And then also we have this feature that you can let mutate
Mhm.
the tracks by themselves. So just add some snare hits, or take them away, and then also considering the modulation parameters. And
Yeah,
this is kind of as this is a bit special. You don't find it so often. Maybe in iOS drum sequencers, not at all.
you're talking about
And
the step components and the random the probability per step.
yes,
Yeah, you can have
this
basically trigger conditions,
Yeah, trigger conditions. Yeah.
velocity, and the velocity you can mutate again. So basically, that's a feature to like humanize drums in the end.
Yeah.
You can like make every hit a little bit harder or less hard,
Yeah.
and yeah, can
Let
also control how often this should happen. So you can you can define the frequency and how much it should differ. And
Yeah.
this is not only working for velocity, but it also works for all CC channels. So
Okay.
yes.
basically, if you can hook up all the drum parameters via CC, you can basically go crazy and like control everything and like do variations of sounds and like make it changing like progressively and really like make your beat come alive. So that was the basic
Yeah.
idea.
Yeah, I got to get into
Yes.
some of that mutation stuff. I have not actually personally experimented with that in Octachron yet.
You should.
But yeah, I mean, it is amazing. I don't know if you ever had a chance to play with the Moog Dam, right? Because the Moog Dam is just one synth voice, but then modulating parameters per step, and you can, you know, there's some videos where just with some clever setting of those modulations, you can get a kick and a snare out of a single voice, you know, and then obviously you can
Yes.
go crazy from there too. So it is just amazing. And that's one of the things that's so fun about synths is being able to modulate things, bring things to life. So that's cool that you
Yes.
guys got that into Octachron.
Yes. Or
Yeah.
some or
Definitely
get
a bit underused, I think.
Yeah.
But so when you see other people making music with it, many people just use the steps.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and also sometimes it's really hard to get these mappings to other drum computers. For Roosemaker, it's easy because it has standardized CC messages which can be used to control it, so we can bake it in our presets. But that's not something that works for every drum machine or drum computer. So if we know that the certain drum computer has fixed CC numbers for all the parameters, we can bake it into our presets, and then you just have to fire it up, load the preset, connect it, and you're basically ready to go.
Yeah, that's something I need to add into Blipbox. I had not done that. But then with Blipbox, it's like 16 voices, and I think there's 23 or 24 parameters per voice. So I'd have to do something where I kind of pare it down, maybe just map some of the most important parameters.
yes.
I've heard
Yes.
8 is the perfect number. Like 8 CCs that we can control via Octachron right now.
Yes. Yeah.
Do you have any other pro tips for people using Octachron? Any other features that might not be obvious when you first use the app that you think are really cool that we haven't talked about so far?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Markus has some, I
definitely
think.
like controlling Octachron via MIDI is a nice feature. You can control like mute states and also trigger patterns via MIDI. And if you set up your AAM to like route MIDI into it, or also when it's standalone, also works, of course. Actually, for it works differently. You have to use the AOV3 parameters to do it. But if you have that set up, you can like use it really nicely in a live situation where you can also use an external controller, for example, and like go a bit more crazy on like controlling it in certain situations. That is certainly something that is really interesting. I think, as we discussed before, the randomization feature is really interesting and something that I think it's quite deep and there's something to discover. And what else?
And also
do you have any other things?
You use these this trigger, how you call it, a lot.
Trigger conditions.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So next to like probability, you can for each step you can configure a probability where you have like a 80% chance to the hit being triggered. But you can also do trigger conditions where you basically can configure every other hits to be triggered. So you have a little bit more regularity in your beat, and it's also a nice way to extend the pattern without having to program everything twice. So, for example,
Yeah.
if you want to have a certain hit every other 8 bars or 8 beat, 16 beats, then that's something that you can make, and your pattern really sounds like more lively and interesting through that.
Yeah. And as we said before, I think the modulation mutation is a bit underused from a lot of users, and they could really discover that. So you can go into every modulation and CC parameter and set the range of the mutation and the probability of the mutation. So there's a lot to discover there, I think.
Yeah, I know I'm glad you guys were able to talk about that, because I know as developers we put a lot of work into some of these features, but then sometimes inevitably it's just the users can't just discover them all. So
Of course, yeah. We try to make them approachable, of course, yeah. And luckily, Jakob Haag did a video about this. He's a big fan of this feature as well, and so he went a bit into that. And I hope it's a bit more approachable for people because of that.
All right, so we've talked about what you've done recently with Octachron. What is next for you guys? What plans do you have for the app?
So yes, we always have ideas, of course, of new features, and we also get a lot of response on social media, as I said earlier. But I think the next big thing will also be an iPhone version for it.
Okay.
Because yes, we really started with the iPad version because we think for more professional music production, it's the better device in the end, and it's still portable and pretty light, and but people really ask for it a lot, and of course we understand the use case here that you don't always have your tablet with you, and so we are on that now. We already have the first prototypes, but we want to do it right.
Yeah.
We see some apps which we don't really like so much on iPhone then, and we want to do it right. So we have to put some work on it.
iPhone definitely adds a whole new set of challenges with thinking about screen size and aspect ratios, and obviously it's a lot smaller too. So getting things
absolutely,
to fit,
absolutely.
yeah. But it is cool,
and
I think,
yeah,
it's really nice. I think one of the cool things that Apple is doing is trying to make it easy for developers to develop for all of their platforms. So I think that's also something that users are starting to expect. And so, yeah, we got to.
absolutely.
Yeah, the people that were asking for iPhone version were quite loud, actually. So
yeah, they're quite loud, and we want to satisfy them now.
And luckily, the situation with the AU V3, where you have to be able to resize, is also playing in our cards. But still, I mean, there's the whole thing of do you want to support portrait or not, and also AUM, for example, which is an app that, like, at least I myself enjoy using Octachron together with other apps a lot. It's such a great app.
Yes,
but on the iPhone, it's
and
only
it works
portrait.
in portrait.
Whereas other apps are like mainly in landscape.
Portrait is a big challenge on iPhone. I'm still, again, I feel like some of my weaker area is trying to figure out the aspect ratios, the portrait versus landscape. I feel like I still just personally don't have it all figured out. But it is interesting because I do feel like people want to use their iPhone in portrait mode. Just as an example, like you never used to see portrait video, right? Video, it was recorded, it was always landscape. But now people can't be
Yeah,
bothered to turn their phone. They want to, you see portrait videos now on Instagram,
absolutely.
all these things. So it just shows how, yeah,
Yeah,
it's,
TikTok
it's
really started that.
with its different considerations.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Because one of the
Yeah,
things I like to do as well is I'll just, with my hardware synths and stuff, I'll actually just, since my iPhone's so compact, I'll just plug that directly into my synth. It's nice to have something small and compact to use with hardware.
oh yes, oh yes. Okay, yeah. So
Are you using a
you
sound
are
card for that?
That would just be MIDI. I would just use like a MIDI sequencer.
okay.
Ah, okay.
So just like a little USB adapter. Yeah.
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 So you're in the target group for the for the
Yeah.
iOS version from
Yeah.
Octachron as well. Yeah, that's great. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then what do you think about having it in? Do you think you need it in portrait mode as well, or what do you think?
I'm torn. I think I think Octachron, I would say, is more natural to use landscape because you have, those
Yeah.
16 steps across. I wouldn't know. I wouldn't know how to do it in portrait. I think you also have to just think about how does the app naturally want to be used, and then users will have to rotate their phone.
Yes,
I think
yes,
we
yeah.
already have mockups for portrait version, but for me it also still feels like a little odd.
Yeah.
It feels a little odd to use it in portrait. I mean, it's experiments by far.
Yeah.
I think
Well, I look
for now
forward
we're
to
gonna
seeing,
go with a landscape version and
I
see
look
how it
forward to seeing,
goes. Because
yeah. Sorry, I look forward to seeing what
excuse
you
me.
guys come up with because everything you've done with the 16 tracks, for example, it just really felt natural. So I look forward to seeing your solutions.
Yes, thank you. Yeah.
All right. Well, I really enjoyed this chance to get to know you guys. I want to just give you guys an opportunity. Like, what's the best way for people to stay up to date with Octachron and some of the other things you guys are doing?
Yes, thank you. Yes, we just have the website octachron.de, the German the German domain, because we didn't get the other ones. And there are our social media channels, and just pick the one you like best. We are on Instagram, on Facebook, on YouTube, and also on TikTok.
Mm-hmm.
And there's also a link to the Audiobus forum,
Mm-hmm.
which is very nice for tech talk. Really specialized on Octachron. You get special tips there as well, and mappings for which we might not have the presets yet, and stuff
Mm-hmm.
like that. And yeah, and to ask for help if you need something. And we are active there as well, but sometimes users help themselves out, and sometimes we join. And yes, and it's depends which channel you like best. I think on Instagram it's mostly about the art and the music.
Mm-hmm.
We post jams regularly, also together with you, other collaborators, which I like a lot about this thing here, about this project. To collaborate with the artists worldwide. It's so cool. And on Facebook, I think it's more tech talk,
Okay.
but not specialized on Octachron, on mobile production in general.
Mm-hmm.
And in the Audiobus thread, which is the Octachron thread, of course, that's specialized about Octachron. And yes, and on YouTube, you just have the jams as well for people who are not on Instagram, and yeah, then for the younger ones, TikTok, of course.
Yeah, have you guys have you had success on TikTok? That's a whole new.
Yeah, that's a good question. Actually, it's our weakest channel, I would say. Yeah. Is we have like 100 followers now, and on Instagram we have over 1,000. So that's the relation. But I think it makes sense. I think TikTok is isn't less serious. I think. I mean, we have in the end, it's a professional production tool which we offer, and and it's more about personality. Yeah, and we show our jams there, and but we don't show us. It's just because it's not about us. It should be about the sequencer and the music, and this works great on Instagram, but I think not so much on TikTok. And the audience is younger, of course, not so professional, but I think it grows, yeah, and they get older as well, and so we are there if somebody wants us, yeah, and but Instagram at the moment works much better, yeah.
Yeah, I think you guys, we've communicated a lot on Instagram. You're super responsive there, and I appreciate the collaborative posts that you guys did with me. That really helped get Blipbox off the ground when I launched that, and it's neat to see everyone kind of sharing what they're doing as well. So I think Instagram is a place for sharing kind of short iOS jams.
Yes, and a higher a higher standard musically and arty wise, I think, than on TikTok. On TikTok, it's more things like my first jam on iOS, stuff like that. And yes, I like the standard, the high quality standard of jams, which is on Instagram a lot. Yeah.
For us, it's also a nice way of like showing Octachron and show it together with other apps and show what you can do with it. And I mean, on the one hand, Octachron works quite well. It's like in many parts self-explanatory. We also added the manual, but still, I mean, it's a nice way of inspiring people and like showing people hands-on how you can do things. It's not always easy to show it when you're doing a jam, and at the same time have to would like to try to show off a functionality of the app that we would like to promote in a way. But I think that is also a nice way of showing and explaining what the capabilities are.
Yeah, and the community. I really like this the feedback there. It's so positive, and yeah, I mean, and as you said, we mainly connected via Instagram as well, and did this collaborations together, and we do it with people from Asia and from South America, Mexico, and Chicago, Hawaii.
The connections we have now, and I agree. The iOS community, the people making music on iOS, I find to be generally pretty positive. You know, they want the developers to succeed, because I think they do kind of understand that the iOS niche is a special thing, because there's so many creative applications on it, and so I feel like I'm very happy as a developer to be there. So I want to thank you guys for coming on, and I'll make sure that I get links to your website and your social media accounts in the description of this video. And I wish you guys the best, and I hope everyone out there goes and gets Octachron and tries out some of the features of this new update. So thanks for coming on, and we'll see everybody later.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for having us.
Thanks for having us.